What do you got,
Cyberpunk.
Jackson?
So everyone hates Cyberpunk.
Hates is a strong word.
No, they do.
Yeah, hates is a strong
They do. They
word.
really hate it.
No, I think they're
No,
just.
they
I
hate
think
it.
they like it. They're just disappointed. Which, of course,
No,
they were going to
CD
be
Projekt
that
Red lied.
because of all
Have
the
you
hype.
guys seen the frame rate on console? I can't believe they're
No.
able to actually sell
Yeah.
that game.
Why? What is the frame rate?
Kaya, it literally doesn't go above like 20 frames per second at any point, even just like standing
really?
still.
Even on the
It's a disaster.
PlayStation 5?
It's a disaster.
on the
no, PlayStation 5
this
and-
is the caveat. It's on the
it's
older
different.
systems. If you have like the Xbox Series X or whatever,
Okay.
it doesn't do this. But on the PS4 and on the Xbox One, it
But
does this.
another caveat to that, this is the game they were the consoles they were designing the game for. This game has been
Right.
in development for like 8 years, and they advertised
a good
it for all
point.
those consoles.
I'm not trying to defend him. I'm just trying to say that's not how it runs everywhere. That's just how it runs on the lower end stuff.
So how long has it been in development? You said?
About 8 years. Yeah.
Jesus. How do you still have a bug where your dick is hanging out of your pants?
That
I was
might
like
be a
wheezing
feature.
when that happened to me on the stream. How the fuck did that happen? Did you guys get that one?
I used to just take my pants
yeah.
off. I heard someone in chat told me if you take your pants off in front of the enemies and have your dick out, they react to it, but it didn't happen for me, so I did it like 8 times, hoping that maybe it would work.
I mean, you take off the pants, but there's still boxes on.
Yeah,
in-game.
I know. That was pretty
Yeah,
disappointing.
in game. It'll show you naked
What?
in your inventory screen, but you can't run around with your dick flopping in the real world. But what happened to me was I had my pants on, but my dick was out, and just my dick.
In the game
And there was
or
a
in the
bug in the
screen?
game. Oh, in the game? No, well, I think in the inventory screen actually.
Yeah,
Does
okay.
someone have a
that's
link to
happened
the
to
video on
me.
our?
Yeah, that
chat?
has
Yeah.
happened to me as well. Like the dick just pokes through the jeans.
Okay.
Yeah, like how the fuck do you not notice this during development over the last
QA.
8 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many
NPCs
fucking
walking
bugs in this
through
game.
walls. They walk through cars. The cars are somehow clipping through everything. I don't know who the fuck was in charge of
Oh, the driving's
car
a
physics,
disaster.
but the driving is a disaster. Am I the only? Okay, so I'm not the only one who noticed that. It feels like you're driving a water balloon. It just feels weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like
That
the driving.
and like almost every other room that I run into, I see the exact same NPC, the identical NPC spawned across from itself, like identical twins all across the world.
Oh, I haven't had that. I mean,
yeah,
you're right though. The game is so buggy. It might be. I don't know if it's as buggy as Skyrim and such were when they released or Oblivion or Fallout.
Yeah, but the thing is, Jackson, those games worked on like every platform they were on. Like the game would play. Like from PS4, this game is genuinely unplayable. Like it should.
No, it's the footage from Digital Foundry just came out today on the base Xbox, which was already underpowered. It sometimes dips into like 10 frames a second. It's insane.
it's disgusting.
How this passed certification. It's a downright scam. It's not playable. It crashes constantly and hangs up. There was a moment where he was just driving down the street and it froze for like there was a time on the screen that counted down. It was frozen for a minute and like 20 seconds, and then it just
Does
it doesn't crash.
Wow.
It just, yeah.
can you
so
refund on consoles?
Yes, they are doing refunds.
Actually, no. So CD Projekt Red released a statement saying we'll allow refunds, etc. But that's technically up to Microsoft and PlayStation. And apparently CD Projekt Red didn't clear it with Microsoft or PlayStation. And Microsoft and PlayStation are still rejecting refunds. So,
Oh god,
Jesus.
they sound like assholes.
I mean, these
So
are
what
the
the
good
fuck
guys.
happened
Does
here?
anyone
Because
remember? No, shush. Does anyone remember when CD Projekt Red were like the heroes of
They
the
still
gaming
are.
industry?
They
Like,
still
Yeah, you
1
didn't
year
have to
ago?
shush me, you son of a bitch. That's what I was about to ask. Like, all I've
they're
ever
not.
heard
shut
of
the
that
fuck up.
company-
Jackson's talking.
Jackson had a point, Kaya.
Jackson has a point. I want to hear it.
Sorry.
I said
Debunk
my,
me, go.
I've said my piece. What? Can you say?
Okay, I was gonna say
you were gonna say?
everything I've ever
Whoa,
heard
wait.
of CD Projekt Red was positive. Like everything. I've never heard a piece of criticism that they're the masters of video game design. They made
Yeah.
The Witcher, they made this and that. So what the fuck happened?
I remember the
They're
Witcher
one-hit
3
wonder?
run. Like, no. Witcher 2 and Witcher 3 are apparently really good games. They're not my cup of tea,
Same.
but they are apparently really good games.
Yeah, I don't like them either, to be honest. But I like the company. The company like actually does do did in the past do some like actual good shit for like their platform GOG, Good Old Games. I like what they
Yeah.
do with that, and I like the way they like respect the community to a certain degree. But this game is like actually just spitting in their face. They did everything that every other company gets criticized for. They had a year-long consistent crunch for their employees. They released this completely incomplete, buggy product. Like, they did a lot of bad shit with this
I wouldn't
one.
say I wouldn't say it's incomplete. There's definitely aspects of it that have been neutered. Like, their vision clearly wasn't fulfilled. But it's still a complete package to me. It's not like any different to any other
Rushed.
open world
Rushed
action
would be a
game.
better word.
Oh, definitely rushed. Yeah, you can
It's
see
not
that in
really-
the details.
Can you call it complete when like 10 frames a second are missing?
No, well, I was gonna add an addendum onto that I played on PC and didn't experience like really any issues in my playthrough, so I
Really?
still enjoyed it quite a bit. I mean, there's the
Oh, me too.
you know the minor things like the cars flipping once every like 10 hours or so, or small things like that I can just kind of brush off.
During the Pan Am
I
quest line,
encountered my frame rate was fine and it crashed only once. Outside of that, I
It
also
hasn't
only
crashed
had
at all for me.
goofy bugs.
But I'm well aware that most 90% of people
Wow.
playing this game aren't going to have the same kind of rig that I have, as well as like they're playing it on base consoles and such, which were advertised as, you know, you would expect them to be working. So
Yeah.
I completely agree that it
Cyberpunk
shouldn't
is
be released.
Cyberpunk is sitting at a 50% for the old consoles on Metacritic, not the user
I-
score,
I-
the critic score.
Yeah, I can't believe it's even at that high for the console.
Okay, well, I can explain that. It's because CD Projekt Red didn't allow reviewers console code before the game released, and not only that, the people who did get early access codes, they added they specified in the review contract that they're not allowed to show their own footage. They're only allowed to show CD Projekt Red approved B-roll footage during the review.
Oh, wow, that's horrendous.
That is.
Wow.
So no
What is
console
the
codes
user
were
score?
So the user score on the last gen consoles is predictably like 20, 30. But here's the interesting one. On the PC version, which I guess you would argue is like the optimal version, it's at an
Oh yeah, it works better than
yeah,
console.
it's
for
at
sure.
an 89% critic for Metacritic, which makes sense. But for user, it's at a 7. That is much lower than I expected. Yeah.
I also had quite a few problems on PC. Like for the Pan Am quest line, I'd have times where I couldn't get the quest to start. For example, like one of Pan Am's last quests, she kept going to one location and locking herself out of the quest. So what I ended up having to do was restart the game twice, reload saves multiple times, and then I eventually got it by just driving across the map and going to where she was supposed to be, and then she finally spawned there. So I had
Yeah, definitely a lot of stuff like that.
I had a lot of problems with some of the quests.
I'm somewhat familiar with like Eurojank stuff though, so I'm kind of like, I don't know. I'm kind of okay with small things.
It's not small,
happening,
though. It took me, like,
especially-
20 minutes to get that
I'm
quest to
not
start.
saying that's small. That just hasn't happened to me. If that did happen to me, I'd be annoyed about that.
Yeah.
Like an entire quest line not working. But like the small things, like people's faces not loading in properly or twins spawning, I'm like usually
What
okay
would
with.
you rate the game if it did work and had no bugs?
I really love the setting and the characters and the world, so I actually quite enjoyed the story. So probably like a 8.
So
I
let me
was also
step in.
thinking eight.
Let me step in on that because I actually did not buy it because I was kind of on the fence whether or not I really cared. Would you recommend the game for someone like me, someone sitting on the fence, kind of like, I don't know, is it
Yeah.
worth
I would
it?
wait. If you're not interested, I'm so happy that I didn't get hyped for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm so happy that I went in with just like this is going to be, you know, pretty standard open world game, story game. I was pleasantly whelmed, I would say. For you, I think you would feel the same since you don't have that hype, but I would still just wait like 6 months for them to
Yeah.
iron over the issues anyway.
My
And you'd probably
current
get
plan
cheaper.
is wait till big patches come out, wait till some DLC comes out, and then hop into it. Because right now, based on what I'm seeing, it just doesn't like it looks fine, but as an experience, it doesn't look that fulfilling or interesting, to be
It's
honest.
it is not by far, but definitely the best looking game I've ever seen and played. The setting is
When
really
there's some
good.
bugs.
Yeah. All right,
But there are.
I'll wait for some big patches then. That sounds like a good idea.
Cranking on ray tracing and stuff, even though it fucking destroys your performance, is so.
Bro, I thought ray
fucking
tracing
cool.
made it look worse, actually.
Really?
Yeah, and so the ray tracing in this game,
Could have
all
been
it
a
really
bug.
does is like turn up the fucking sun. So like when I had ray tracing on, all it would do was blind me anytime I wasn't in Night City. So I couldn't like fucking see anything with ray tracing on.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
That
it looks
does sound
great
like
for
a
me.
bug.
I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe I guess, but it looked like fucking shit. Like on stream when ray tracing was on, they tell me to turn it off because this looked bad.
That's
It
weird.
might have
It
been
looks,
a bug. It
looks
looks
great
fine
for
for me
me.
too. Yeah.
You got ray tracing on as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
I got it on max settings, so I mean, it looks okay.
God, I can't believe that this is happening. The fucking IGN review for Xbox One and PS4 Cyberpunk is a 4 out of 10.
That's too high. It doesn't work.
It's
It does
insane.
not work.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's more baffling, like that these big paid off reviewers are giving it that low, or the fact that they released it in that bad of a state. I mean, what's to stop them from saying, "Hey guys, the next gen versions are out now, but we're still working on the other versions to make them run better," and then just
Because they had been advertising it for 8 years as
Yeah.
having like as it working on consoles. They already had so many fucking pre-orders for that. And we saw how the last delay went. Like people were angry that they delayed it again.
They only
I don't
delayed it
know.
like a month, if that.
Yeah. Yeah, there were so the
Well,
game
so-
is interesting because the bugs I think can be patched out and fixed in like a month or two, but it still is pretty much a fundamentally shallow RPG. I wouldn't even really call it an RPG. At
Can
this point.
they? They had 8 years. The new
mean-
generation of consoles wasn't even announced 8 years ago. These guys started developing this for the last generation, and they still somehow
That's what I mean.
ended up with 20 frames. So I don't know if they can fix it.
I think they'll be able to fix most of the performance issues. They might just turn down settings and stuff to optimize it. Apparently, in their
Great.
apology, they posted an apology yesterday, and they basically said, no. So it was in an emergency shareholder conference call thing. They said that they didn't bother with current gen consoles. That was their exact
Emergency
verbiage.
shareholder.